Navy man. He's a Navy SEAL with his Mark 23. He's the Navy man. When's the Navy man gonna get one of these for his Mark 23? All right, guys, it's Eric with FirearmTutorials.com with some inspiration from Navy Man 8903 and TM on Fire 102. I decided to kind of talk a little bit about the Mark 23. Haven't really done anything with this gun in a while. I'd actually just shot it last night for the first time in several months. And Navy Man got me thinking about some of the things he said that I wanted to talk about. So obviously you see that I have this suppressed. And a lot of stuff I've either covered in another video or Navy Man kind of talked about it on his most recent video, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I thought were worth mentioning. So the threads on this barrel, this is the only gun I know of pretty much on the planet that uses the 16x1 right-hand threading. All the other HK guns use a left-hand threading. Some of the other guns, SIGs, Glocks, will use those as well. But as far as being a right-hand thread, this is the only gun I know of that uses that. Every suppressor manufacturer I know that has made a 45 suppressor has always made one for the Mark 23, indicating that it's obviously one of the favorite suppressor hosts out there by the guys who like this stuff. One of the things that Navy Man brought to my attention that I didn't know in his video is the difference in the feed lips. So if we look at this, see which one is which. So this is obviously the Mark 23, and then this is the USP 45 magazine. So you can see on here that, yeah, the feed lip is a little different. Like he said, it's shorter on the USP, longer on the Mark 23, and then obviously the floor plates are different, which allows you to use the Mark 23 mag in the USP, but not the other way around. And I've done that before with no problems, not even knowing about the feed lip thing. So obviously it must not be too big a deal. Going back to the barrel, and Navy Man kind of talked a little bit about the wear, and I had covered this in a video before, but yeah, it's a great indicator to see how much the gun has actually been fired. Because like he said, I mean, you put one magazine through this thing if it's brand new, and you're going to have this line along the bottom. It also gets pretty dirty when you shoot it suppressed. But these barrel threads, that's what I wanted to talk about. For some reason, this gun doesn't come with a thread protector. I don't think the USP 45 Tactical does either. I actually bought that one used, but I bought this Mark 23 brand new. It didn't come with one. The USP SD, the 9mm version of the USP that comes with a threaded barrel, comes with a thread protector. So I don't know. In lieu of the match trigger, they give you a thread protector, I guess. But these threads are honestly so hard because of the way that these barrels are manufactured. You don't really necessarily need the thread protector. I could go bang this on the pavement and the threads should be fine. Just the process of cold hammer forging this barrel makes these threads so tough. When I actually bought this Tyrant suppressor, the guy was telling me that if you ever got into a situation where you were able to cross thread these, it would actually cross thread the suppressor piston and not the barrel threads, obviously, because they're so hard. Honestly, I don't see how you could ever come to the point where you would get into a situation where you could cross thread them, with the threads being as wide as they are. And I don't really ever see that being a possibility. I had seen similar situations like that with something like the US threads, the 1/2 by 28, where they're smaller threads and they're closer together, but nothing with these guys. So he talked a little bit about the laser aiming module, the LAM. Obviously with this rail, you'll see here On the front, it's got an open design, and if you look at a regular USP, you see that it's actually closed. So that's one of the differences, but there's really nothing that will fit on this rail other than something that was designed specific for it, either the Wilcox manufactured one, Insight. There's a couple different versions, couple renditions. Some of them have infrared lasers, some of them just have visible lasers, and obviously lights. This rail here is the Rhino rail. I think it's just something that somebody made themselves, kind of came up with a design and then had them manufactured so that people could actually use something other than those specific devices on this gun. When I bought this, there's actually two different versions of it, and I didn't realize it, but there's a laser module and then there's a light one. This is the laser one, and you'll see how low this Picatinny mount is. If I had known any better, I would have got the light one because I never really put a laser on here, but I have trouble putting certain lights on this rail just because it's so low profile. The Streamlight ones will fit, but I tried to put like an Insight and a Surefire light. Neither one of them would lock up correctly on this rail, so something to be aware of for you guys that are looking to put a light on it. One of the other things he talked about is the trigger, and I agree that this is probably one of the best triggers. It's kind of a combination of a combat trigger and a target trigger. So you've got a pull weight that's a little heavier than you would usually find on like a target or a match gun, but then you've got just a nice clean break, and it just, the reset and everything, it feels awesome. On top of the fact that it's a wider trigger and it's got some little lines on here that help your fingers stay on it if you were shooting with gloves or your fingers are wet or anything like that. So I agree, this is a really good trigger. Who's gonna buy this gun? You know, I've kind of talked about this before. This is not a gun that you're gonna buy as your first gun, second gun, maybe even third, fourth, fifth gun. This is a gun that somebody's gonna buy because they know what this gun is, they know the history behind it, and can appreciate the design and engineering behind it. That said, it is one of the best shooting guns as far as accuracy, reliability. I mean, you are getting what you pay for. I've made the argument before that, you know, for $1,000 more than the USP Tactical, is it necessarily worth it? I mean, they're both great guns, but it's kind of, I always say it's kind of like the difference between, you know, a $150,000 Ferrari and a $400,000 Ferrari. You know, to get that much better, you've got to spend a lot more money. So that's my justification for the price of this gun. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the sights on this gun. So if you notice here, they're not actually the raised sights like you find on a lot of other guns. The slide actually has a high point, and then these sights are inserted in there, at least on the front. Whereas you look at, you know, one of these guys, you see that it's got a much taller, just a taller blade on the front sight versus kind of just a normal size one that's fitted in a raised section of the front. Now the rear has this screw here so that you can take this out and put different ones in to adjust your point of impact. If you read the manual, it makes it sound like these are supplied with the gun when you buy it, because it'll say if you want to go out to, you know, 50 yards, use number 5, and then you would unscrew this and attach the number 5. From what I know, they were never supplied with any of these guns, at least to civilians, and they're very expensive and very hard to find, you know, if you can find them. So I think most people just stick with what they've got. But while I'm on the topic of sights, for some reason out of pretty much all the handguns I've shot, these sights just look the best to me. I don't know why. I think it has to do with the fact that it gives you a tall sight picture, but because they're so narrow, for whatever reason, my eyes just pick them up really nicely. I just love the way that they're presented on the top of the gun, and I wish more of HK's guns or even other manufacturers would use something like this They're all metal, obviously, so they're real durable. They're not going to break or anything like that. As far as the finish goes, like Navy Man said, this doesn't have the HE finish, or I shouldn't, not the HE finish. It doesn't have the maritime finish, which looks more like a piano, like a baby grand piano, like a sleek, shiny black. This, I guess, is just the standard HE finish, although it does look a little different than the USP. I don't know if you can tell by the camera, but it kind of looks more like a powder-coated finish. There's a slight texture to it. But, you know, obviously it's going to do just as good a job at, you know, reducing corrosion and things like that as any of the other finishes that HK puts on their guns. So I figured I would talk a little bit about when I first got this gun. I think I got this in 2010. It's a BA date code. So yeah, it was probably 2011, I think, when I bought it. And before that, I was really just used to shooting Glocks. I'll use this as an example. It's an M&P, but this is the best example I have. When you look at how much, how close the bore is to the top of your hand, this is a little deceiving because these are taller sights, but it's very close to the top of your hand and you get used to shooting that. Then when you grab something like this, and you realize, wow, that's like a 2x4 that's sitting on top of my hand there. So when I first got this gun out of the box, put that very first magazine through it, had really high hopes for it, awful. I wasn't even close. I was a good 4 or 5 inches off my target at, I don't know, 5 yards, 7 yards. So initially I was really disappointed with this gun. Obviously, especially paying so much money for it, I was expecting, I guess, the gun to do all the work for me. But once I stuck with it and put my time in, it didn't take long to adjust to it. 2 weeks later and 150, 200 rounds, it ended up being the best shooting gun I have. So if you're gonna buy one of these, you're gonna get what you pay for. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. That's it, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. Navy Man and TM on Fire, keep doing what you're doing. I like your videos. And till the next time.